Ms. Lanier or Mr. Lawson, if you have joined us, please dial *9 so that I can unmute your line. I just unmuted two lines. If you can please state your name one by one.
Are we going to have a roll call with Shirley Lanier?
Okay. Yeah, okay, we have Mr. Lawson and Ms. Lanier. Thank you. All right. So to our new chairperson, Dr. Botel, if you would like to go ahead and begin our agenda with the call to order.
Do we have a formal agenda?
Hello?
Marcia, did you send me an agenda?
Yes, it was in the calendar invite, but I can resend it.
Yeah, would you please? Sorry,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. All I see now is the virtual meeting preparation from the last meeting. So if you would resend it, please.
It should be in your inbox.
Sorry, I don't see it yet.
Well, since I'll be moderating the entire call, you can begin the call to order. Afterwards, Ms. Anthony will do the roll call, and then I'll take it on from there.
So I'll call this public briefing for City Council to order on Friday the 17th at 6:32 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll do a roll call, Ms. Anthony? Can you hear me? Claudine?
She is on the line. She should be. Ms. Anthony, if you can please make sure to dial *9 so that I can unmute your line if it's not already unmuted. All right.
Hello?
There you go.
Hello?
Yes, Ms. Anthony, we hear you. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mayor Ronnie Felder?
Here.
Chairperson Julia Votel?
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Douglas Lawson?
Here.
Councilperson Trodrick McCoy?
Here.
Councilperson Kashamba Miller Anderson?
Present.
Councilperson Shirley Lanier?
Here.
City Manager Jonathan Evans?
Present.
City Clerk Claudine Anthony is present. City Attorney Don Wynn?
Here.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, everybody. So my name is Marcia Noel. I am the assistant to the city manager. Good evening to our mayor, city council, and all those that have joined us for another community conference call on COVID-19. As you can imagine, the situation surrounding this particular pandemic are constantly changing, And as we hope to see this pandemic subside, nonetheless, we continue as your local government to make every effort to keep you informed on what's being done to serve the needs of the community and the organization as a whole. As always, we thank each and every one of you for your time to join us every week so that you can obtain all of the vital information that's to be shared to you. During the course of the call, we do encourage you to share information on this call through social media. We are also broadcasting on Channel 18 and Channel 99 and wherever else we do broadcast our public meetings. Before we begin, I do want to let you know that we are going to start with our staff report. And then after we've gone through our staff report, we will then allow for our elected officials to provide comments and any final remarks. Our staff reports will consist of information you'll hear from our city manager, who is currently serving as our incident commander for the Emergency Operations Center. Afterwards, you will hear from our various section chiefs representing operations, logistics, planning, finance, and human services and the legal office. Afterwards, you'll hear from public communications, risk and safety, and information technology. I do want to advise that all other callers that are not participating in the call are currently muted, and only those who will be speaking have unmuted lines. So with that said, I will go ahead and hand it off to our city manager, Jonathan Evans.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the City Council, and members of the public. This is an unprecedented time for our agency and for our nation, for that matter. We have activated the Emergency Operations Center once we began with the emergency declaration that was executed by the City Council on March 18th, 2020. Activation equates to 4 weeks, 2 days, or 8.2% of 2020. It has been a long couple of weeks, and staff has done everything in their power to ensure that the basic necessities and the needs of the community are met, but also that the city staff has provided resources to be successful to combat this enemy that is unknown and unseen to many of us. The city of Riviera Beach is currently operating in an ICS command structure, which is Incident Command Systems, which is a system that is developed by the Department of Homeland Security and is most certainly utilized when an activation occurs as a result of an emergency declaration. There is a national state of emergency, a state of emergency, and a local state of emergency that was executed by Palm Beach County as well as the city of Riviera Beach. As a result of the needs in our community, we end up creating a new division, which is our Human Services Division, which is managed by Ms. Valerie Grimsley. That particular division is focused on community activities, events, and programs, from the distribution of food, hot meals, produce, anything that we are giving to the community. That particular division is responsible for coordinating and managing. The distribution of food to our young people that are home, that parents may not have reliable transportation, that division will be responsible for those activities. They have the full weight of administration to assist and help in those efforts. And as the elected officials become increasingly more active in the community as a result of this pandemic, this is a division section chief that you will be working closely with on those activities, events, and programs that impact our community and look to fulfill the basic necessities and needs. City facilities are currently being cleaned and sanitized and sealed. Most of the city facilities have been closed for public utilization. There are only a couple facilities that remain active that city staff is operating out of. The Public Works facility, where our Emergency Operations Center is, that facility still is operational and it is accessible only to city employees. Our fire departments, our fire facilities, as well as our police department is still operational. One of the things that is occurring when employees visit the site, that they are asked 6 questions and then their temperature is taken. That happens for every employee that enters the site. In the event that they answer the question inappropriately, then the appropriate steps are put into place to provide assistance for that employee. As a result of the potential for our employees to be exposed to COVID-19, the City of Riviera Beach has partnered up with Aetna Health Insurance, our health insurance provider, as well as American Care Clinic in the City of Riviera Beach, located at 3344 Broadway Avenue. This particular clinic is intended to provide tests for our employees that may be exhibiting symptoms or those that are concerned because they could potentially have interacted with an individual that has been tested positive for COVID, or in the abundance of caution. We have had employees utilize that facility once they reach out to city staff concerning that, and we've actually established a line and an intake specialist to interact with our employees. Once they provide us information is provided to the employees, then they are rendered care through that medical office, and then when information is provided back, the city calls on a daily basis to be able to assist and facilitate any needs that the employees may have. That is done on a frequent basis. The only time that the city does remove itself from the treatment process is if they are under the care of a physician or they have not shown symptoms for a significant amount of time. But in the event that they are showing symptoms, they are checked in on a very frequent basis until it's clear and they're not exhibiting any of the symptoms associated with COVID-19. As a result of the conversations that we've had with elected officials, the City of Riviera Beach has put forward an economic recovery plan that speaks to 6 categories throughout the city. We have Health and Human Services, which will be chaired by Councilperson Lanier. Public Safety, which will be chaired by Councilperson Miller Anderson. Hospitality, Tourism, and Maritime Industry by Chairperson Botel. Small Business Assistance, Small and Medium Business Assistance by Councilperson McCoy. Fast Track Permitting and Business and Residential will be Vice Chair Lawson. And Charity and Community-Based Services, Clergy, and Community-Based Services will be chaired by Mayor Felder. These particular categories are intended to formulate committees and task force that will look at specific needs in the community to be able to address those with a direct line to the elected officials and to administration to bring forward policy recommendations to attack the needs of the community and to assist in rebounding economically from a medium and small business perspective. These committees will be intended to bring us back to some form of normalcy. The City of Riviera Beach has set aside $125,000 to assist in facilitating these committees to be able to bring forward some ideas and solutions to address some of the concerns that may be in the community as a result of COVID-19. In my conversations with the incoming chairperson, she can provide some additional information that she would like for her fellow peers to consider in a subsequent conversation with the CRA. But city staff is building out the framework of what those committees would look like and assigning the appropriate personnel to assist the elected officials in that capacity. We will be bringing back another item to the board to formalize the relationship and the committees at your next regular meeting of the City Council. One of the things that we want to also be abundantly clear and open about is that we have seen communities such as Jacksonville and some other communities in Martin County start opening some of their beaches. The information that they have been operating off of is profoundly different than ours. And in my opinion, it does not coincide with the executive order that was executed by Governor DeSantis that it is safer at home, and that executive order is set to expire on April 30th. To put things into perspective, when you look at Palm Beach County versus Jacksonville, we have 155% more cases than they do of individuals that have contracted COVID-19. Our death rate is 666% higher than Jacksonville. We are not opening the beaches this week. We are not opening the beaches next week. We will be having continued conversations with our municipal leaders throughout the county and throughout the state. This is not a decision that we will make that will be short-sighted. It will look at every bit of information provided by healthcare professionals, scientists, epidemiologists, and all our first responders. I cannot stress the importance of still adhering to the recommendations that are being provided by the CDC, the White House, the state, the county, and the city. It is important that we still adhere to social distancing, that we make sure people are wearing face coverings when they are out in the public, that we wash our hands for at least 20 seconds repeatedly and vigorously, and that we please understand that if you are ill and not feeling well, that you just stay home. The intent behind the executive order is to restrict mobility for the purposes of addressing the curve. We are seeing progress, but it is not to the point where we can celebrate or become complacent or complicit. We have to understand that each and every other community outside of Riviera Beach has profoundly different challenges, and this is something that we in administration are taking seriously. We would like to restore our normal way of life, but it would not be wise, prudent, or reasonable for us to move forward in a fashion that we're not even close to where the peak is supposed to be as it relates to the number of cases and the number of deaths. As you've seen information provided in the media, you have seen that this virus has impacted infants all the way to individuals over the age of 100 years old. This pandemic, this virus does not discriminate and decimates communities that have a vulnerable population. And so from the city of Riviera Beach's standpoint, we are going to wait and see and make movement on good factual information, because we are not going to make a knee-jerk reaction to appease a group of individuals or a few individuals. We will make a decision based on the information that will make sure that we are safe and that our first responders are safe. As it relates to the reopening of city operations, conversations will begin as early as next week to talk about how we can look to conceivably bring certain operations online. We will do it in a staggered, tiered approach, and we will follow alongside our municipal partners as well as the county. One thing that we want to make sure is that we are not operating in a vacuum, and that some of the other communities do not move outside of the relationship that we have with one another, because it will confuse the public. It's certainly important to make sure that there is a unified approach, and the city managers are meeting next week to have a discussion, and I will be on that call, and we have daily calls from the Emergency Operations Center from the county talking about a collaborative effort. Lastly, I want to thank the staff for the yeoman's work that they are doing. They are working countless hours. They are putting in a lot of effort. Like I said earlier, this has gone on for 4 weeks and 2 days. And in some cases, we don't know what day we're operating in, but we just know that things need to get done. And I can't thank them enough for the expediency in which they move and how they operate, and the professionalism in which they executed. And to our elected leadership, thank you for your continued support, your continued involvement, and seeing a need in the community and jumping in, even though it means that you are putting yourself in a situation where you could be at risk to this virus. But it shows that your commitment and your oath to your office means exactly what it means to serve and protect, and you have done that in every conceivable capacity. So from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of the administrative team, thank you for your leadership, guidance, and counsel as part of this activation. Ms. Noel, at this particular moment, I turn the presentation back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Now we're going to enter into the section chief reports, starting with Operations Chief John Curd.
Good evening, everyone. John Curd, your interim fire chief, serving as the operations section chief. I'm going to go through a quick report on the current stats as it relates to COVID cases in the state of Florida and in Palm Beach County and Riviera Beach. Currently, there are a total of 24,753 cases in the state of Florida, with 726 deaths being reported. In Palm Beach County, 2,088 cases of COVID-19, with 115 deaths being reported. And from the Florida Department of Health, as of yesterday at 5 p.m., we know for a fact that there are 20 confirmed cases within our municipal boundaries. There's been some very promising information as it relates to the curve starting to flatten out in Palm Beach County, but we have not yet seen enough statistics nor data to confirm whether that is a continued trend. We think that the results that we are seeing are as a result of the social distancing and the staying at home orders, the hand washing and the hand sanitizing and the wearing of masks. But until we get some more statistical data and see multiple days, if not weeks, continued on this trajectory, we still are in a very dangerous position. So we have to urge you out of operations to please continue to adhere to the social distancing, to adhere to the stay-at-home policies, the frequent hand washing, as it'll ultimately make the difference on whether or not this is going to last for a few more weeks or a few more months. To date, since we began tracking COVID-related calls, Riviera Beach Fire Rescue has transported 75 COVID-related calls to the hospital, and of those 75, 6 of those patients have been confirmed as positive. To reiterate what Mr. Evans had mentioned, if anyone was watching Palm Beach County's press conference, it has been made very clear that Region 7, which is made up of Monroe, Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County, will be working in unison as it relates to opening of beaches, golf courses, and other recreational activities. Please understand that this is regional as it relates to the state of Florida, and even these curves are to be questioned when you look at the state of Florida as a whole. What is happening here in South Florida might not be happening in the Panhandle or in Jacksonville. We do know that 30% of Florida's population comes from Region 7, Monroe, Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County, but yet 60% of the cases are found in Region 7. So we have to continue to understand that we are in a different region. We have different factors involved. We have different populations and vulnerable citizens within our area, and those individuals are taken into consideration and right now are of our utmost importance. With that, I have no other report out of operations and will be available to answer questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Curd. Next, our Logistics Section Chief, Mr. Little.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager, and congratulations to both Chair Botel and Pro Tem Doug Lawson. I'll try to keep this as brief as possible. We were able to secure PPE this week in the form of surgical masks and the pursuit of both N95 respirators for our first responders and hand sanitizers for our entire staff is an ongoing constant pursuit. And again, if there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those questions.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Next, our planning section chief, Mr. Bailey.
Good evening, Terrence Bailey, Public Works Director, acting as your Planning Section Chief. As previously mentioned by Mr. Evans, planning has been assisting in standing up a new Human Services Division to aid in food distribution and logistics with staffing that new division. The Planning Section has been working and completed a phone number inventory for over 400 city phone lines to ensure that every phone is answered during normal operating hours that the city possesses, as directed by Mr. Evans. We are constantly looking for new ways to maintain a continuity of government and making sure there is a person at the other end of the phone, no matter what phone number you call during this event, is a priority for this administration. Planning is looking forward to preparation for hurricane season, as well as the demobilization of this COVID activity and the potential for overlap of these two operations simultaneously. Staff anticipates bringing the funding for hurricane preparation to City Council at the appropriate meeting in May. Operationally, the Public Works Department was able to mobilize staff into the Monroe Heights area on today and run the vac truck along the streets and cut alleys as requested. And that is the planning report.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Now for our finance section chief, Mr. Sherman.
Good evening, everyone. This is Randy Sherman, Finance Director, serving as the Finance Section Chief. The call center continues to receive several hundred calls per week at the 845-4050 number. The volume of calls has been relatively stable, but we did issue a billing this week, which always impacts the number of calls that we have to handle. Our staff continues to address any calls that require assistance at the meter location. The field crew has their city vehicle with them at their residence, and they are authorized to respond directly to a customer's location. Limited staff continues to come in and out of the office twice a week to post checks dropped in the mail slot and those received by the city electronically from online, telephone, or lockbox payments. Customers may see a slight delay as we're not posting daily, but we are again doing it twice a week. We are seeing a reduced number of payments, which we would have expected, but at this time I have no liquidity concerns. BTR continues to receive applications, and we are processing those applications and submitting them to the appropriate departments for review. The online payment link for the city clerk became active today. Unfortunately, the link for development services is still 2 to 3 weeks away. As for payroll and accounts payable, staff did complete the check runs this past Wednesday, and the next scheduled check run will be on April 29th for both payroll and accounts payable. And that concludes the finance section report.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. And now to our new Human Services Section Chief, Ms. Grimsley.
Good evening. This is Valerie Grimsley, Youth Empowerment Director, serving as the Human Services Branch Director. We have the staff spreadsheet for food location dates, a monthly calendar of where food will be distributed, what time, so that our community will actually be able to tap into our monthly calendar and see exactly where they can go to receive food, whether it's hot, bulk food, or just individual bags for to receive.
I'm sorry, Valerie, could you take yourself off speaker, please? You're breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me?
I think that's better. Thank
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. We do have a spread for employees, addresses mental health, and also addresses
Ms. Grimsley?
Not good.
Yeah, I think she's breaking up. Ms. Grimsley, you're still breaking up?
she has a headphone to plug into her phone, it would be good.
Correct. Well, for the sake of time, what I will do is, Ms. Grimsley, we'll get back to you. I will move forward with the legal office.
Can you hear me?
And then after, yes, we can hear you now.
You can hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
sorry,
but you were breaking up.
Okay. I apologize.
No, that's okay.
Currently, we have a monthly calendar that addresses where all the resources are being distributed throughout Riviera Beach for food resources. It addresses the time, the location, and what type of food will be given out at those locations. We also have a spreadsheet that addresses any and all other resources that need to be provided to our employees, our citizens, and anyone else that can tap in for virtual therapy, medical, and any other things that our families may be struggling with. That's all I have for right now.
Thank you. And now on to our legal office, Ms. Nguyen.
Good evening. This is Dawn Nguyen, City Attorney serving as your legal section chief. Briefly, on April 16th, yesterday, the governor issued Executive Order 20-104. That order suspends the job reporting requirement, which is usually required in order to continue receiving unemployment benefits. So in keeping with the stay-at-home order, there's no requirement that those seeking unemployment benefits go out and apply for jobs. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Nguyen. Next is our public communications report, which I will provide. So as many of you already know, I am also serving as the public information officer for our Emergency Operations Center regarding COVID-19 communication. In the last 2 weeks alone, we've seen a combined total of reaches and views through our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at approximately 49,500. This number also represents those who are not in our boundaries, but I think it's quite evident that the information we are sharing is so valuable that it's reaching others in and outside of the city. And since March 12, which is when we began distributing information, we are now at approximately 82,500 reaches and views on COVID-19 that have been sent on a frequent basis through various means such as videos, memos, letters, emails, and et cetera. Thanks to the hard work of our elected officials, city administration, staff that have been working hard and producing content worth sharing, we see a specific height in our online engagement, especially for that video where our public safety personnel did a kind gesture of appreciation to medical staff at St. Mary's. So kudos to those who were all on the front line and participated. We ask that members of the public to continue visiting the city's website for our dedicated webpage for all things COVID-19 by simply going to rivierabeach.org/COVID-19. In addition, you can email us at citymanagersoffice@rivierabeach.org, or you can call us at 561-812-6597 during normal business hours regarding COVID-19 and city operations. Lastly, we will be holding another COVID-19 community teleconference call April 23rd at 6:30 p.m., which will provide an opportunity for the community to ask questions and get answers from members of our EOC and public safety team. And with that, I will now move on to the next group, which is for our risk and safety. And that'll either be Ms. Marie Fillin or Yvette McLeod.
Good evening. This is Yvette. Marie's on the line as well. We have currently we have been updating the NIMS program. We're continuing to assist employees with questions with regards to COVID-19, and there's no additional information to report at this time, but we are maintaining the NIMS program for the city.
Thank you. And the last of our staff report is going to come from Information Technology, Mr. Parzielli.
Good evening, Tony Parzielli, Information Technology Director. all city systems are remaining operational and supporting our staff both in the office and remotely. IT continues troubleshooting any break-fix issues that our staff bring forward, and we do have IT staff in the office to address any issues that require hands-on device management. IT continues to receive notices from federal and state agencies warning of scams with attempts to gain access to personal information, including bank accounts, or offering looks really good COVID-19 information. So I just ask everybody to be safe out there, personally and online. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Now we're going to move to receiving any remarks or questions or comments by our elected officials. We'll go ahead and begin with Mayor Felder.
Yes, thank you, Marshall. Good job. Just to give a kudos to everybody that's involved in this process, man, to making sure our residents are safe. I know you guys are working hard, long hours. You're not taking it for granted, and I'm not taking you for granted. But just one question, Mr. Evans, do we, and I know we probably haven't discussed, do we have any funds set aside for any testing for our residents?
Mr. Mayor, one of the intents behind the creation of the Human Services branch would be to effectively assist in facilitating that. We have been, and under your leadership, we have been attempting to secure folks access to testing sites, but we can assist to facilitate that, and as part of the initiative, there is money that is set aside to be able to help facilitate that. And that particular committee is under the leadership of Councilwoman Lanier.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you. Next, Chairperson Botel.
Thank you, Ms. Noel, and I want to also thank all of our city staff, from the guys who are out there continuing to do the work in the weather to everyone up to Mr. Evans. A great job, and we really sincerely thank you. I want to thank my colleagues for their willingness to lead a component of the Riviera Beach Economic Recovery Plan. Given their commitment to service and their high level of expertise, I anticipate we'll have some very positive projects with exciting outcomes. I have asked Mr. Scott Evans if he would consider matching the $125,000 that the city is putting up for that economic recovery plan with funds from the CRA. And Mr. Evans let me know that this will be on one of our next upcoming CRA meetings. So please consider allowing Scott Evans to make an additional contribution so that we can even be more successful in the work that we're doing to create a positive economic environment and social and health environment and spiritual environment there in the community. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. And next, our Chair Pro Tem, Mr. Lawson.
Why don't we go ahead, Ms. Noel, to the next, and then we'll come back to Mr. Lawson.
That's fine. Ms. Miller-Anderson?
Good evening, everybody. Just wanted to say, as Mayor Felder already put in, and Chairperson Botel stated that, we really appreciate all of the hard work that everyone is putting in. I know that time is really passing by, and we've been at this for several weeks now. But I did watch the Palm Beach County press conference as well today. I know a lot of people have had concerns about the beaches opening and, moving along a little fast to try to reopen the economy. We all understand the hit that we're taking as a county, as a state, as a nation because of the economic impact being so great at this time. But what I really can't stress enough is that it's more important, I think, so that we preserve lives. And we need to continue to do what's necessary in order to keep the spread down and to maintain life so that later on we can enjoy all of those things that we've had to put aside for a little while. So for the residents, continue to do as you're asked to do. I know I was at a grocery store today, and Ms. Evans, if someone can, maybe Ms. Wynn can help me out on this, but I thought with us, I know it's a recommendation, but are the grocery stores, what position are they in to require or ask that people have them on? Because there were many people that came into the store without it. I know there were some stores that were turning people away if you didn't have it, but obviously I guess that's up to the individual stores to enforce. Ms. Wynn or Ms. Evans?
Ms. Wynn, if you want to speak on that.
Yes, I believe that the individual stores are coming up with their own policies, which they have a right to do as private businesses. And so I think for the safety of their workers, that's what they're coming up with or requiring.
Councilperson, we've also, I did receive a complaint from an individual about a pharmacy, and I've asked for Chief Osgood to have one of his officers go over there and just educate the manager about what we're recommending. So that's something that we can do at that specific grocery store, just to strongly recommend it, that it's deployed for their staff and personnel.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. But outside of that, I think what we agreed on the other night to put some things into place to be able to help out in all areas and categories that we just stated earlier. I think that would be very helpful, and I hope that the community does see the work that's being done, and we're really trying to make sure that we do this right. And so with that, I appreciate your administration, your staff, the workers, and everyone involved. So with that, that's it for me.
Thank you. Next, Councilman McCoy.
Thank you, Ms. Noel. And thank you, Mr. Evans and administration, as well as the staff members here on the call and the members of the City Council, along with the mayor. Mr. Evans and Ms. Chair Botel, I wanted to understand, and I guess I kind of missed it initially when the manager first mentioned it, to ask the CRA to participate in the economic recovery plan. What would the role be? I mean, would they essentially just be providing additional funds to support the current objective of those committees currently, or is there something separately?
Yes. I think one of the primary objectives of the CRA is to support the city in economic development. And so Mr. Scott Evans has agreed that he would gladly participate in supporting the work of those 6 committees which were designated by Mr. Jonathan Evans. So it would be nothing new other than to give us additional funding to do the kinds of things that we're already thinking about doing.
Okay, and
Councilman, if I may, also I would like to be able to work with the CRA team because some of the things that they're working on, they could assist in leveraging some of their expertise and resource to augment the teams that we're building.
Right.
Okay, but Mr. Evans and Chair Botel, I would say this respectfully. I really disagree because I've not seen anything other than a 2 or 3 liner as to what we should be doing as these committees. And before we go about asking for individuals or another, I guess, extension of the city to participate, there has to be something more specific. I don't want us to use it as a piggy bank because, I mean, I understand what the title of the committees are, but until we establish some specific objectives, I think it's very much premature to ask for the CRA to be the philanthropic arm of participating in this without even having any succinct expectations and objectives in which we're trying to accomplish. And the other idea is not a decision of Mr. Scott Evans. You know, I would expect that there is something much more robust and detailed as to what exactly are we going to do to carry out these before we start appropriating and apportioning funds on the CRA side. So, you know, I say that from a fiscal stewardess standpoint. I've not seen, even from our meeting on Wednesday, something to necessitate us participating in and having another arm be a part of it.
And Councilman McCoy, what we're going to do is that's the formation of the committee is going to establish what the parameters and the objectives would be. The monies would be set aside and no monies would be expended until those work committees are formed and they develop a plan of action. Ultimately, that the board adopts the plan of action that each task force will be focusing on. It's just merely setting aside the monies to help facilitate that particular form and fashion, because we're building this as we go as it relates to this particular pandemic. So there's a lot more heavy lifting that's going to occur once we start the reopening of operations. And the intent, I believe, from the chairperson is that putting aside that seed money to facilitate some of the other initiatives that are built out through the community. None of the money has been, promised to any initiative or what have you. That work is still being done on the front end, and obviously, you as the policy-making board are going to be the ones that are going to agree on the initiatives, and then the release of the funding to be able to do that. We've just identified a funding stream and built out the brief description of the categories.
Is that helpful, Mr. McCoy?
Well, I mean, philosophically, I disagree. And from the background in accounting, I don't want us to create a program to match the budget. I want a program so that we can then build a budget around it, as opposed to the other way around.
Point of order.
Yes.
I want to caution us to not go too deep in talking about certain items, because we haven't advertised the items that we're talking about, and I think everybody understands there obviously is a concern, so maybe we want to just make sure we can address that in an actual city council meeting so that we're not crossing too many lines.
Thank you, Madam Immediate Past Chair.
But I definitely understand. I understand the conversation for sure.
Yeah, thank you. I want to say just to Councilman McCoy, this will be on the agenda at our upcoming CRA meeting, and we will have plenty of time to discuss it at that point. And hopefully at that point, many of you will have already come up with some ideas. I have three in the very early planning stages, none of which will require a great deal of money, but I hope that all three will result in some economic gain for the travel and tourism industry that I've been tasked to work with, as well as the marine industry. So please be thinking about the ideas that you might have so that you can begin to put some flesh on those bones so that they can be presented to City Council for our group approval. So can we have the next council person, please, if Mr. McCoy is finished?
Oh, thank you for closing me, Chair.
I said if Mr. McCoy is finished. Mr. McCoy, are you finished?
Yes.
Thank you again. Go ahead, Ms. Noel.
Right, thank you. I believe Chair Pro Tem Lawson has joined back. Mr. Lawson, can you please respond and see if we can hear you?
Can you hear me, Ms. Noel?
All right. Correct.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. And I just wanted to thank the staff, Mr. Evans, all of our EOC, and all of our departments. You guys are doing a phenomenal job keeping ahead of the fray, really keeping us out of trouble. And even though our numbers are slowly starting to creep up, the fact of the efforts you guys have put in place have kept us out of harm's way as much as possible. So I just want to thank staff again for what you're doing. I did have a question for Mr. Evans. Do we have any additional ideas on if we can get a few more testing sites open?
We've had internal conversations about the testing sites. We had a conversation as early as today with the mayor. The mayor is going to work with his political connections to conceivably see if he can push on the county to allow for the potential of a site being opened here in Riviera Beach, or something more consistent, working with the health department and other agencies. So we're looking at trying to facilitate that, but the health department and the county want to be involved in the discussion. So we are looking at that. Mr. Mayor, do you want to provide any additional perspective?
Well, while we're waiting on the mayor, and also, Mr. Evans, just a follow-up, while we're waiting on the mayor to come in regards to actual accurate numbers for our city, to see where we are in regards to positive testing, and to see also take a look at how many residents have actually been tested. Because I want those numbers to be as accurate as possible before we make any decisions to start moving forward with reopening our city.
Absolutely. And Chief Kurt, if you can give the specific numbers that are within our municipal boundaries, because if you go into the system and put in 33404, the numbers are skewed. Chief, you have real-time information provided by reputable agencies on our numbers.
Yes, Mr. Evans and Mr. Lawson, to follow up on that conversation, we do know that we are being given information from the Florida Department of Health as it relates to the number of positive cases within our community. We do know that that number is 20. As it relates to the total number of people tested or the negative results, they are not capturing negative results by city, nor will the Department of Health, due to HIPAA compliance, give us certain specific information about certain individuals testing, their results, and even with the 20 known cases in the city, we don't even know who or where those cases are located. So we also are dealing with certain laws that would prohibit obtaining such information. So that's one of the biggest challenges we're battling right now in regards to some of the data. But I can tell you that Palm Beach County Health Department has now begun to go back through the data, both positive and negative cases, and they're going to be looking very closely at ethnicity to really be able to identify and quantify where these positive cases are and what communities may be more at risk, underserved, or require more testing as a result of some of that data. But again, the specifics to that data are going to be very difficult to obtain.
I appreciate that, gentlemen. Thank you so much for the updates, and I just look forward for us to continue to push forward. So I appreciate it, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Noel, is there anything else on the agenda? It doesn't appear to be.
We have one more Councilperson Lanier.
Yes, hello. Well, thank you, Julie.
I know face.
I just wanted to thank the staff of the City of Riviera Beach for all of their hard work, and I know that anybody who's working from home now understands that you actually produce and do a lot more work working from home than you would do if you were in the office. So I understand how that works and how it is very difficult to kind of balance the two. But I also want to say that I'm looking forward to the whole health and human services piece, given the fact that I'm very passionate about health and I'm passionate about how we're going to protect this community from, the fate of other communities across the country have suffered. I know that the Health Department Director, Dr. Alonzo, today she also gives a daily briefing, weekly briefing to the Palm Beach County Health Department, and a lot of the numbers are African American people who are testing positive. Not in the same as with the fatalities of people who have contracted the virus. So, given the demographics of our city, we have to be very, very diligent to make sure that we are telling residents to wear masks when they go out. I'm in the process now of working with vendors to mass produce masks for our community so that people won't have an excuse not to have their face covered when they go out. I'm also looking forward to an official testing site here in the city of Riviera Beach so that we can be able to test as many people as possible, but also making sure that for people who are uninsured, people who don't have any money, will be able to access those tests as well. So it is it's a lot of heavy lifting, but this is what we are here for, to be able to do everything that we can to ensure that this community is protected and that we are taking it very, very, very serious. And I also wanted to make a suggestion that a resident called me and said, a lot of people are walking around the city of Riviera Beach. A lot of people are going into stores and, kind of freely moving around without masks on. So if we could put on our marquee, when you ride down Blue Heron Boulevard at the marquee at City Hall, if you can put the new numbers up for Riviera Beach every day and let people see how these numbers are steadily increasing in our city, I think that people will take notice that this is something to be taken seriously and that it's not going to go away in 2 weeks. It is not going to happen. We are not going to go back to normal. We have a new normal now, but we also know that we are creeping up this curve, and it is the worst is yet to come, given what has happened across the country. So we have to be very diligent in ensuring that we make sure that our community is safe, and I'll make sure I do my part. But I'd like to thank the city of Riviera Beach, the residents as well as the workers, for at least doing the best that they can with whatever that they have. And that's my piece.
Thank you,
Thank you, Ms.
Councilwoman. Have you been working with Mr. Little in your attempt to acquire masks for everyone?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And Madam Chair, if I may, we're working on a mass drive. We're going to do a hybrid approach. Right now, we've secured about 15,000 surgical masks. We're looking to attempt to get some hand sanitizer because we want to create a care package to be able to do a distribution for almost about 3,000 people if we gave them 5 surgical masks. So we're working on that. And then to Councilperson Lanier's point, we have procurement is working to get quotes on cloth masks, and we're pretty close to finalizing that. So there probably will be something to that degree in the next, probably next week. We may couple that with the food distribution, but we're close to doing a massive push to get masks to our members of our community.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Now, is there anyone else? Have I forgotten anyone else?
No, we covered everybody.
In that case, are you ready to adjourn, Ms.?
Correct. So if there's no further remarks, then that will adjourn our meeting. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for another community teleconference. As I stated earlier, we will be holding another one next week, April 23rd at 6:30. Please stay tuned to social media for more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.